Good morning to everyone. Before we start today, we would want to start with a prayer, and I would like to request Reverend Berry, who is one of my colleagues, to open this session with a prayer.
Thank you so much, Sandra, and good morning to everybody. Please pray with me as we take a moment to go into the silence and connect with our Creator, with the divine source of all that is. We give thanks for this moment. We give thanks for the opportunity to share, to learn together, and to support each other on this path towards a better life, a better world for everyone. We connect our hearts to Great Spirit. We connect our feet to the earth, and we feel the flow of life that extends from my heart to your heart, from your heart to all of our hearts, united with common purpose. And we ask that the work that we do today be blessed, be fortified, and be guided by the divine Creator who lives within all of us. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Rev Berry. I would like to acknowledge as well as to greet my team members who are here with me. Firstly, it's Seth Cladden, who is our program director. Seth, if you can open your video so that the participants can see you, you can just say hi so that they will know you. There is Seth with his makeup. You're looking good,
thank
Seth.
you.
How are you?
Welcome, guys. I'm good. Thank you. Looking forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Seth. We also have Claire, who is our program coordinator. Claire.
Morning. Morning, everyone.
Thanks, Claire. We do have Mumisa, who is our communications and media coordinator.
Morning, everyone. Morning, Sandra.
Morning, Mumisa. And we do have Abigail as well, who is part of the community.
Morning. Hi.
Hi, Abigail. And we also have today on the session, normally we have the Rural Action for Climate Resilient participants. Today we have been joined by another group, which is being coordinated by Rev Berry, who opened with a prayer. Rev Berry, once again, if you can just say hello to the participants. I think Rev Berry cannot hear me. We will go ahead.
My apologies, Sandra. Yes, you wanted me to just greet the participants. I am Reverend Berry. I'm the Faith Leader Liaison for SAFC, and I'm very happy to be here with a few of the faith leaders that I've been getting to know over the past few years. So I'm really looking forward to learning from all of you, and thank you so much for including us in this really wonderful experience.
Thank you so much, Rev Berry. We are about 32 participants on this program, on this platform. We do have a special guest who I will introduce later. For now, just to see each other faces, can we just open our videos, all of us, and we do greet each other? We just say hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, hello. Oh, I can see you guys. We are back live and here.
Thank you so much.
It shows we all had a rested holiday, a nice December holiday.
Yes, we did. We did. We are back
Yes,
in
yes,
with
I can
enthusiasm.
see with fire. I can see. Oh, yes, okay. Freddie, how are you? Always. I can see you guys. Cindy Square, Sele.
Oh my God, we just had a load shedding.
Hopefully it won't affect us. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Now we can close our videos as well as mute. Please remember to mute yourself during the whole session unless you have been asked to speak. Can we kindly switch off our cameras, mute ourselves?
Sandra, you've muted yourself. We can't hear you.
Misa. I just want to start by reminding ourselves the project. Who still remember the name of this project? Who can tell me the name of this project? Who still remember the name of this project, or what is this project all about? You know, I like asking questions and giving homeworks. That's my role on this project. So I'm asking who still remember what is the purpose of this project, or even the name of this project, or anything about this project. I know we had quite a long gap, we were rested, so now we are back in form. So let's talk about the project. Can someone tell me what this project is all about? I can see people are quiet.
Can I come in?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Nomi. Greet you all. To me, the name of the project is about the climate justice, especially for education sharing for the rural poor in our communities. And the educating awareness, creating awareness about the climate and issues of food security. That is it, that I foresee happening.
Thank you so much, Lindokuhle. Thank you very much. My name is Sandra Mandaza. I'm not Numis. Just to remind you. Thank you so much. You did very well in actually explaining the intentions of the project, which I'm just going to remind you. This project, its name, we call it the Rural Action for Climate Resilience. And remember, this project is being co-funded by the European Union, and there are 3 organizations who have partnered together to work with the faith leaders and the community-based organization to build social and economic and environmental resilience to climate change. These organizations, you know of START, you know of SAFC, you know of HBF. Now into the project intent, the project is to help the communities to understand what is climate change. We also want to learn why is it climate change affects men and women differently. And also we would also want to learn how can we cope with the challenges that are being posed by climate change. That's why last year, you remember we had quite a number of sessions learning on what is climate change, how can we adapt to climate change, how does climate change affect gender differently. We learned even on vulnerability assessment. So it's also the purpose of this project that we are all capacitated on what is climate change. Then we would also want to assist the different communities or the participants that we do have today on this platform, that they connect with the decision makers so that you do influence the decisions that are being made on your behalf. And most of the times, the government, national, provincial, and local, they just come up with projects, programs, and policies that we do not input to. So the purpose of this project as well is that the communities and they are able to participate during the policy making process. Then we all know that there are also grants that will be given out. Some have been given out on this project. Then the other thing is that we all, like I have said before, rural voices are not heard. Normally, we are not consulted. Normally, we don't even know what is happening at national or provincial, or we know things happening in our area if anything is happening. But now we would want your voices to be involved during the policy making processes. Like at this point in time, Western Cape government, they are drafting their provincial climate change policy. And we would want you to participate in that and make sure that all your needs are being addressed in that process of developing the Western Cape climate change strategy. If you are in Eastern Cape, if you are in Northern Cape, we will also do the same. And we would also want the participants to contribute to the national climate change strategies, the national determined contributions, all policies that are being developed. We would want the participants to be involved. The purpose for today's session, remember we are being trained or taught on integrated development plans. I am not going to talk about what are integrated development plans. We have a guest here who is knowledgeable and an expert in that area who will be telling us on IDPs further. But the main reason why we would want us to learn on the integrated development plans is that all the CBOs and faith leaders, they become critical actors in the addressing the absence of the, like I've said, the rural voices. So we would want you to be capacitated so that your voices will be heard during the policy or the plans of the municipalities when they make those plans. Then we would also want you to remind the municipalities to change in their daily operations, in their planning, so that the decisions that they make, they address your needs. Last time we were talking of what are the projects that you want to see, what are the areas that you are mostly vulnerable in. So the purpose of this workshop is just to make sure that our needs are addressed. We raised issues of drought, we raised issues of food insecurity. So we would want those to be addressed, but they cannot be addressed if we don't know who to approach and who should be addressing those issues and how should they be addressed. So that is the purpose of this workshop, that we learn education is power. So if we know who to approach, who should be addressing those problems and how they should be addressed, then it will help us as well. So we would also want the participants to ensure or to campaign for the inclusion of climate adaptation and mitigation strategies in the IDP. So that's also the purpose of this. And above all your needs are addressed in the IDPs. Our guest will tell us why is it how all our needs can be addressed in the IDP. So these are the main purposes for this session today. So without taking time, I would like to invite Lindokuhle, who is our main speaker today, who will be giving us a lesson on the integrated development plans. I would want to welcome you, Lindo, and to take the platform. Lindo will introduce herself and tell us more about her background. Lindo, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sandra. I'd like to apologize for my lighting. Our comms team is out in Port Elizabeth, and so they couldn't set me up with all the fancy things that they do. Igama lam ndinguLindokuhle Vellem. I work at Afesis-corplan, and I've been in the sector for nearly or just over 10 years now. And mostly my work is around local governance and capacitating communities around issues that pertain to service delivery and public participation and accountability, and most recently budgets and how people can use budgets as a monitoring tool, and also for their own advocacy. And as I hear from Sandra, your advocacy is around climate change. How do you use the numbers in the budget to speak to climate change? How do you influence the appointment of your municipal manager? Do they have to have skills in climate change and how to mitigate that? And those can be answered through just looking and paging through your IDPs, your integrated development plan, and how they are set out to deliver the services to communities. I will now share my screen, but just a background on what I've put together. I would like us to, are you able to see me? Sorry. Share screen.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. And you can see my presentation.
Yes, we can.
Yes, this is the coastline of East London, where I'm currently based. And so this presentation is around the IDP, but more so why IDPs and why it is critical for us as communities to get involved in the process. In a nutshell, it's all about good governance. We want to see our municipalities practicing good governance. And it is defined as it's about the process of making and implementing decisions. It's not about making the correct decisions, but about the best possible process of making those decisions. I think we've found that in governance within municipalities, provinces, and national government, we find that our administrators are stuck with what we call complex problems. If you go right, you solve one problem, but if you go left, there's something else that also needs to be done. Do we install taps or do we collect refuse? Both need to be done, but how do we, that's the complexity that governing administrators are dealing with on a daily basis. So as we go into this presentation, if we can have that at the back of our minds, that on an everyday basis, people are met with complex problems. A bridge will collapse. I saw in the chat that there were 3 millimeters of rain from last night. That could have been catastrophic in some area where a bridge has collapsed. So now the administrators are stuck. How do we use the disaster management fund in this instance? So those are the kind of issues that are dealt with on an everyday basis. Well, the main characteristics of good governance include accountability. There needs to be accountability within good governance, and good local government has an obligation to report, explain, and be answerable to the consequences of decisions it has made on behalf of the community it represents. Go back. It represents. Just a second, I don't know what button I pressed. Okay. Good governance is transparent. There should be information in each and every corner of the municipality you go to. However, we are finding that it is troublesome to get information from our administrators and their assistants. It's as if you are trying to climb Kilimanjaro when you are trying to access information from our municipalities. People should be able to follow and understand the decision-making process. This means that they will be able to clearly see how and why decisions are made, what information, advice, and consultation council considers. In council, there are multiple stakeholders. You have your civil society, you have your business people. Now, if the business people are the ones that are giving the advice to council, and council constantly goes with the business people, what is it saying about those that are living in informal settlements, those that are living in rural areas who don't necessarily have that kind of access to the municipality? So when we have councillors and ward committee members, it's the platform for us to do our own participation and have clarity on how the system works, that they come back to us with answers to the questions we pose, and that we are answerable. They are answerable to us as communities. Good governance is responsive. You might write a letter today and you don't get a response. That is not good governance. If you write a letter or send in a petition, it should come back with a response within 7 to 14 working days. And that is what is in our constitution and what is in the municipalities' laws and bylaws, that the governance should be responsive to communities and their needs. They should always try to serve the needs of the entire community, and while balancing complex interests in a timely, appropriate, and responsive manner. You may find that in an IDP or budget, there's a beautiful park that is set out for a certain area within a municipality. You might find that that area is your more affluent, where more tourists go, but it's not speaking to the needs of the masses, which need water, they need roads, they need infrastructure in townships, they need refuse collections and toilets. So it's those things that we take into consideration when we look at how responsive our government is to the needs of the masses. Good governance is equitable and inclusive. A community's well-being results in all forms of its members feeling their interests have been considered by council in the decision-making process. This means that all groups, particularly the most vulnerable, should have opportunities to participate in the process. In now the IDP process, is everybody included? Are your people living with disabilities? Are they part of the discussions? Are the LGBTQI community, are they part of the discussions? The religious groups, are they part of the discussions? Because it needs to be equitable and inclusive. And inclusivity means those that are not wearing your suits and ties, not just stuck in a gallery in the city hall where they do not have a voice. Being inclusive means that even if I come in with my smart clothes and I come in walking from the streets and have something to say, there should be an official or a political member of council that is there to listen to what I have to say within the jurisdiction of that municipality. Good governance is effective and efficient. local government should implement decisions and follow processes that make the best use of available people, resources, and time to ensure the best possible results for their community. Now, when you find sometimes that you'll have an engineer employed by the municipality, but then the municipality will go out and employ another engineer to look at a project within the same space. Now, is that an effective and efficient use of state resources? So those are the kind of questions that we get to ask when looking at how good governance is mirrored to us when we look at the different documents that are published within a municipality. Are they making double payments on, they are buying school shoes. School shoes, generally, they might go for 120 Rand. But now if they are paying 300 Rand per pair of shoes, is that an effective and efficient use of state funds? State funds means that it is our funds, us as community members, us as citizens, us as people living within the borders of South Africa. Those are our funds, and they are supposed to be answering on the use of those funds. And lastly, good governance is participatory. If any of these are missing from the picture that you have in your community, then it is not good governance. Anyone affected by or interested in a decision should have the opportunity to participate in the process of making that decision. This can happen in several ways. Community members may provide with information asked for their opinion, given the opportunity to make recommendations, or in some cases, part of the actual decision-making process. You have in municipalities what you call your IDP representative forums. Some people apply to be in the space, and some are elected through their award committees, and they form part of that IDP representative forum. I do not want to speculate, but I have not seen a functioning IDP forum. A colleague of mine in another organization where it actually applied to Amatole to be part of their IDP forum, but that has not manifested. And it's one of the things that, one of the spaces that as community members can monitor the spend and the effectiveness of our of the IDP and the spend of the budget within the municipality. The objective, the good governance has the objective of promoting good governance is to uphold the democracy in South Africa. So by promoting these principles of good governance, you are upholding the democracy, upholding the constitution, and upholding what the voter votes for each turn the vote comes around. So that is why we do what we do. We have found that in the space, the architecture that is there has not been exploited enough so that we are able to collect enough evidence to say that, no, this process does not work. It's only handfuls of people that will actually use the process, and that is not enough data for us to conclude that this process is not working. Therefore, that's why we continue with IDP trainings. We continue with budget trainings and climate change trainings, because the architecture that is in place, the laws that are in place currently within our democracy have not been used up to the maximum, which can build a movement from within or from below, but we are not yet there as a country. Well, that is my personal take on the whole architecture of our democracy. Yes, I think I've been speaking for a couple of minutes now, but I want us to just think about our plans, well, the IDP, and these are some of the things that we need to know. That in any 1 year, your municipality is working with 3 budgets and IDPs. There is the current budget, which we are now in, it's 2020, 2021. No, 2021, 2022. That's the current budget that we are in. There's a future budget that is currently being negotiated. Just shortly, there will be a draft budget that will be tabled on the 1st of April. That is that future negotiated budget. It's going to come back with communities' consultation and what their recommendations are from the outside, and then it will be tabled as a final budget. And then within the same year, we also need to look at the previous year's budget, the one that will be then under evaluation with the Auditor General. And after that, the impact then comes in, led by the council. So if we can keep those things in mind when we do budget analysis and working with IDPs, is that most times projects are budgeted within a 3-year cycle, but they are paid out, or money needs to be spent within a specific year, and that you get within your SDBIP. But then I will speak more on those documents as we go along. Getting involved. Okay, just before we go into getting involved, I just want to find out if there are any points of clarity when it comes to good governance and what people have experienced within their spaces. We tend to find that the ideal is not what is on the ground, but I don't want to be putting words in people's mouths. I would rather you come in and say what has been your experience where you live. It need not be related to climate change, but if you have been involved in the processes of the IDP, we would like to hear some of your views and how you found that process. Zelda, I'm assuming you would like to come in? Yes.
Yes, it's thank you for your insight. What you actually say, it's so sad you don't see it on the ground, because you take the ward committees, it's how they are chosen. It's the political party that's in that ward will take their favorite organizations. And those ward committees, they don't report back to the broader community or to their stakeholders. And as you are saying, when money needs to be spent, here in Cape Town, we got sub-councils. Now, in sub-council meetings, the community cannot talk. They can talk in ward committee meetings, but you don't even find the community people in that sub-council meetings to listen as to what's going to take place, development. So everything gets pushed through and community wants to complain. And yes, they also put up the developments in the local newspaper, but coming where we are, where we come from, a lot of people cannot read and write, or they don't understand the concepts. So people don't complain, or there's no input. There are input from the liberals. That is how I say it. But I actually, as I sat here, I'm actually saying all political parties that's within the council and not reporting back to their constituencies. They must stop playing politics and look after the people and the promises they fulfilled. Thank you.
Thank you, Zelda. 100 days is coming up, so you get to voice your opinion upon the political party that you voted for. What have they done? What have they done since they got your vote and were in council? And how have they been representing you? And how do they fare on what they promised during the election period? Do I have another hand? And on that note, I think we can move on.
Thanks, Lydia. Before you move on, Lindo,
Else?
I'm saying Lydia's hand is up.
Okay, I don't, oh, there. Yeah, hi, Lydia.
Hi, good morning.
And then after Lydia, we'll have Sophia.
Okay, thank you, Lindokuhle. I appreciate this opportunity. I have two questions. The previous under evaluation, is that in terms of the budget that gets reverted back, or is that in allocations or submissions to the IDP where communities would want to say what it is that they want to be, what they want to see in the IDP? And then on the other hand, also, you did mention that this does not perhaps indicate whether we can do the climate change or the adaptation within the IDP. My experience in the communities where I live, it is, I've started going to these meetings and the IDP meetings and sub-council meetings. Climate change effect is not readily spoken about within these meetings, because some people will claim that the current state that we are in this climate crisis, it does not necessarily have to reflect within the IDP, and most people are not aware of the effects that climate change does have. So we will usually see that climate change is like an afterthought in these meetings, and where people are readily available to speak about what they want in their communities. But climate change and the effects, it doesn't necessarily feature within these meetings at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to answer your questions, may I just answer and then the next person, just before I lose my train of thought. The previous budget is the budget that has been spent. There you will find that money has been spent and what has it been spent against. And the different departments, have they met their key performance indicators so that it could legitimize them getting more money in the next year, or even the municipality as a whole? The more you spend, the more Treasury decides to give you, but the less you spend, they take away that which they gave you previously and you did not spend. So it reflects on the municipality itself and how it's able to manage projects versus the money that they have budgeted. So if they spend well, they will get more from Treasury because they are obviously doing more. So those are the things that you can find within the budget, the previous budget. But you have to have a series of documents all aligned when you evaluate your budgets. And then the issue of climate change, and the first thing that came to mind was sustainability. What's the sustainability foresight or planning for a municipality? Take the issue of drought. It just doesn't come out of the air. It's been projected. So if it was projected in 2017, where are we with the plans to rectify or to plan for a drought? I find it silly when you have a municipal manager or anybody within the administrative or executive or an executive position saying that we have a water problem and it's because of a drought. We have scientists that predict that a drought is coming, you need to prepare for such. And so if there was a report in 2017 saying that we are going into a drought. Now in 2022, what have you put in place to mitigate the effects of that drought on the communities that are affected? So those are some of the questions that people can ask, and those you can find in the narrative of a municipality, which is mostly in your annual report. because your annual report will give the state of the municipality as a whole and what they intend to do. I live in Buffalo City, and the Buffalo City state, it always says that they are wanting to save on water. One of the questions that I can ask in Tanzania, there's always a pipe that is burst, and it takes days for them to come and close it up or fix it. So that is water being lost, which adds to the climate change problem. Women in rural areas, they have to go to the furthest parts, even wake up at 4 o'clock to go get water from water streams that are used by animals and people throw nappies into. So those are the climate change asks that people can make. What are we doing with the waste? Are there recycling places within our municipality? Where do we take I see people, they collect tins wherever I tend to be. Where are they taking those? Is it a municipal, is it a municipal space, or is it a private space? So those are the kinds of things that we can start thinking about when we think climate change. In the mountainous areas here in the Eastern Cape, there are a lot of veld fires. How is the municipality dealing with that? It's not sporadic. There's a season for it, that you have heavy lightning and the mountain just comes alight. How is the municipality dealing with that? And mainly because of the dryness, because of the drought, what is set aside to mitigate what is happening within our environment? I think those are the kinds of questions that we can start asking pertaining to climate change. There was another hand.
Good morning. Lindokuhle, Sophia. Yes, I was thinking of this IDP and how does it work for us in our areas. You see, IDP, according to my understanding, was something that the community as a whole must participate in when it is discussed, so that you can also give your input. But in the area where I am staying is that it works like the IDP is planned in the municipality, and then after plan, it doesn't even come with a draft. After plan all the areas that they think that is will talk to the need of the community, then they come to the community, and then they will present this as in already a decision taken by the officials of whosoever are responsible for it. So which means in our area, community never had the chance to give input in the IDP. And that was for so long my fight. Why are we invited to something that is already been there, discussed and close to the community, not to give input? So my fear is, in our area where I'm staying, climate change has so much impact on the daily life of people here. As we take drought, when we go to the system of drought, then there's already the thing that you must plan ahead. After the drought, floods will come. That is why that is what we experience or observe for the time being. So I'm in the field of working with gardens. So I see the differences. I see things is happening. What is it that we can put in place to see or plan ahead for if after the drought, for the floods, not to destroy everything, or the drought come and destroy everything. But because of we have not that chance of coming with our ideas, because even your people living with disability, they didn't even have an input in this so-called IDP in the area where I am. So that's why I always saying I will not go to an IDP meeting whereby we are invited to come and give input, or because this thing is already been there. It's not a draft even to change. Nothing changed.
Yeah. May I answer you to after this next section,
Yes.
because it speaks about how we can make our participation meaningful. Sorry. Okay, getting involved, your meaningful participation. The key duty of a local government is to provide accountability. That is in the white paper of local government, and it's in our constitution. You cannot take it away, that they need to provide accountability to communities. It's an ongoing inclusion of communities in decision making. Some of these structures are built into the municipal structure to facilitate this through report backs to communities, ward committees, traditional councils, advisory committees, the IDP representative forums, CDWs, councillors, traditional leaders, the key role players in participation loop. This is an ideal. This is what's in law. This is what's in the white paper on local government, that these individuals or these groups of people are meant to be part of that information loop, because local government is there to provide accountability. They've built in your report backs to communities, ward committees, traditional councils, advisory committees, and IDP representative forums. It's built into the system. However, that is the ideal, as you have so lovely stated, unfortunately, Sophia. And as an ideal, it's time, well, my understanding is that it's time for us to reclaim those spaces. The ward committees, let it not be about the political party. It's supposed to be representing interest groups. Is the youth there? Are the elderly there? Are people living with disabilities there? Are taxi drivers there? Are women and young girls, are they represented in the ward committee? And then in their smaller communities, in their smaller spaces, your street committees, do they have a voice? I think it's high time that we as the civic need to start moving from the ground, because we need mass to take back these structures. Yes, they've been co-opted for other things, but legislatively, they are meant to serve the community. They are meant to be the mechanism of providing accountability. So this is the ideal that is presented, but now it's time for us to take it back. Yes, there have been papers written on the ward committees and how they have failed, and how it's a space that no longer speaks to the needs of the representatives, but maybe a space for upward mobility, for towards being a councillor, towards being in the council, PR councillor, and maybe making it into the executive committee. But that space is meant to serve us. Our traditional councils, yes, in some spaces, there are young women that speak of the oppression that comes with living underneath the traditional leader. When it comes to accessing land, it must be given to their brothers or their fathers. And as young women, they are struggling to access land. But there are spaces within our society where traditional councils are working for the people. And so is your IDP representative forums. Do they exist within your municipality? And one other thing that we need to be aware of is that accountability or our participation cannot be meaningful if we do not have the research and the information that we need. Participation and accountability also built into the main decision-making processes, including in the planning and oversight cycle, the process of prioritization, and how the municipality's money should be spent. There comes a time within a municipal budget that they may need to reprioritize. which for a significant period, the COVID period, there was a lot of reprioritization of funds that were meant for something else, but then suddenly had to go towards PPEs. So those are the spaces in which community members should have that information, should being emphasized, because we tend to find that it is not happening. And my belief is that it is not happening because we are not calling for it in numbers. I think our secret lies in us organizing at street levels, at community levels, at ward levels, and therefore building enough of a base to make to make our councillors accountable first to us, because what we tend to find, yes, councillors and ward committees are parachuted, but it's because most of the baseline is not involved in the process. Participation must be meaningful. The Constitution says that participation should be meaningful. The criteria to measure if participation was meaningful or not is that, was the consultation timely and accessible? Was it held at 2 o'clock in the afternoon where most people are at work? Or was it held in a school where there's no ramp for people that are using wheelchairs? So in terms of access to that space, did they have access to it? And in terms of the timeliness of it, was it within the calendar of meetings? Because as it is set out, each quarter, councillors should be having a council, a ward committee, a ward meeting, which includes the committee and which includes community members. Is that happening within your community? I think that is where we should all start. Within your councillor's office, there's a calendar that this must be happening within this quarter. Are they living up to that, which is on their own calendar within their own offices? And if we can start holding them accountable to the plans that they have made and they have promised to communities, then maybe as we move up from the councillors to the actual institution of the municipality, then we are able to get, or them being in the front line of holding the institution, which includes your councillors and your administration accountable. But it starts at the lower level. If you cannot hold your councillor accountable, then you will not win the fight against a whole institution, unfortunately. Was it informed participation by those that are affected? In the issue of climate change and the gardens, Sophia, yes, I mean, here we are having cases of people having their produce being returned because it was dry, and then suddenly it was so wet that by the time of harvest, when it gets to the market, it does not even last a day, and then it starts rotting. How are those people taken into confidence, and how are those people brought into the planning cycle of the municipality? Because they are then the most affected by climate change in this instance. So if they're talking about climate change, are the local farmers in the room? And I'm not talking about your big farms, but your smaller farms, your 1 hectare per household. Are they involved in the decisions that are made by the municipality? Because that affects them most. Was it fair and was it transparent? Those are the things that measure what a meaningful participation looks like. And then here's a checklist of what your municipality could and should do. The issue of language has always been something that people lament on, that they come in with their documents that are already prepared in English and they present in English. And so in some spaces in rural areas in where you find that people cannot fully converse in English, it is a barrier to effective public participation? Was the venue accessible to those who will be affected by the decision? If it's a ward meeting, is it in the center of the ward or where the ward begins or where the ward ends? Because those that are at the beginning of the ward may not necessarily be able to access the end of the ward where the ward ends. They might not have the transport to get there, or it might not be provided. Maybe when it's in the center of the ward, some can walk to that particular hall or open area where that meeting is being held. Clearly and objectively explain the impact and decisions the decisions will have on people's lives in understandable language. When you leave a session that is looking at the IDP, do you understand what is happening in that whole process? The information that was given to you, was the point to understand or just a tick box exercise, that we went there, we have the registers, and that we can tick off our list as done? Sometimes they walk out of the space and the people that they came to, they don't understand why they came in the first place. So in measuring how the municipality is faring, is that, are the people in the room satisfied with the content of the presentation? Did they provide enough time for the community to prepare? And that's one other thing that communities don't do, because even though it is in our constitution that we have a right to participate, but how do we participate? Are we prepared for those spaces? Have we read through the draft IDP before it comes to us during the roadshows? Have we seen the trajectory of the money spent within our ward? Yes, there's the municipal budget, but within our ward, what has been the spend over a significant, let's say 3 years? Have we analyzed the data on that? Because now when it comes to participation, it's a little bit more than just putting your hand up in a meeting and stating what you would like. That is simply a wish list. But in the first year, when this council comes in, they need to prepare a 5-year plan. So from that 5-year plan, where are you as a ward? So those are that's the kind of preparation that is needed of us as community members. Do they treat everyone at the consultation the same? We know that there are self-appointed, at times, key role players within our communities. They possibly have the capital at times, and probably they can speak the loudest. So in that space, the people that are convening the meeting, are they treating all of us as equals in the space? So that's how we measure how our municipality is faring. Do they listen to all views with an open mind before a decision has been taken? Do they make special provision for people who cannot read, write, or people with disabilities, women and other disadvantaged groups? Women, in terms of women, if they hold the meeting at 5 o'clock, how does it suit the woman that needs to prepare supper, that needs to go collect water for the next day, that needs to wash uniforms? So the nature and the timing of our meetings, does it include these groups that we call the vulnerable or disadvantaged groups? Do they announce the participation opportunity in the local newspaper and on the radio? Those are mostly the platforms that are used in municipalities that are bigger and have bigger budgets. You'll have them posted on your street lights that on such and such a day, we will be having a roadshow, or we are having an open council meeting. But was it done in a timely manner? That it was not just by the way, please say this on radio, just so we can tick the box. Because what you tend to find that the meeting is tomorrow, and only that afternoon they'll announce that there's a meeting in the council, which is open to the public. And by the way, council meetings are mostly open to the public. Even if we're not going to be contributing in the space, it is open, and we can get access to the minutes of council meetings. It starts with access to information. That whole thing about preparing for sessions or participatory meetings, it starts with getting the information. And fortunately, it is legislated that most municipal documents should be published, if not all. Just now I was looking in Lindokuhle municipalities website. I actually found the contracts that the HODs of the different departments have signed with the MM. That was a first for me. So there's still a lot more that can and should be found on our internet. And if you don't have internet, you can go to the municipality and ask for the information that you are needing. And here I provided a list of the things that you can find on your municipality's websites. If you have contracts that are above 200,000, those should be on the municipality's website. The list of registered bids that were received when a tender was put out, those should be available on your municipality's website, including the service delivery agreement. So that will include the specifications of the specific service delivery that needs to be provided to a specific community. So if it's a hall, it will state that it needs to be 50 meters by 20 meters, if I'm just calling out random numbers, but the specifications will state that they must use this type of brick, this type of door, this tile, and if it's a zinc instead of tile, there's something definitely wrong with what was the product versus what was called for and paid for by the municipality, or should I say by the state's or our community's money. Info, if you don't find it on your website, go to the municipality's office, contact the IDP manager and information officer and the MM. The municipal manager is the custodian of all information within the municipality. So if you don't get it by the IDP manager, the information officer, the municipal manager is meant to give you the information that you seek. Ask councillors and ward committee members. Contact your speaker's office, national and provincial treasury. The budgets are published on the National Treasury's website if you need access to those. And then there's another committee, the Municipal Public Accounts Committee. Those people need our help. We've done a number of trainings with them, but they need help and assistance from community members. If you have the skills, if you have the passion to look through documents and go through council asks, because the Auditor General will come with red flags and then the council will give it to the MPEC to investigate. If that is what you would like to see in your community or your municipality, the platform is there for you to participate in committees such as the Municipal Accounts, Public Accounts Forum. So, and they are allowed to co-opt people from communities who have the skills which they might not have in the committee itself. Ask your councillors to get the information by asking questions in council. If you send your councillor with an ask to council, follow it up by asking for the minutes to know that they did exactly what you asked them to do. And they should come back with an answer. Let's start to give our representatives work, because most of the time they are doing their own political work that will then filter down to us. But by design, they're meant to be doing what we are requesting and what we are asking, and filtering that up into council. Give them tasks, make follow-ups. It's up to us to stand up and say, now we are done. We are done with how we used to do things. We are taking it up onto us. This is our exercise, and we are going for meaningful public participation within our spaces. You have a right to information. One of the basic values and principles governing public administration is transparency. And the Constitution demands that transparency must be fostered by providing the public with timely, accessible, and accurate information. Actively promote a society in which the people of South Africa have effective access to information to enable them to fully exercise and protect all of their rights. Without information, you are unable to participate. You can sit in the room and be counted and have your name on the register, but without information, it is difficult to participate. And in that space, we get angry, we get agitated because people are not listening to what we have to say, because we didn't bring forth evidence of what we want to say. So it's about gathering evidence and making your case towards your IDPs, towards the budget of the municipality, towards the different departments within your municipality. How are we dealing with disaster? Have you taken data of this is how much we made in the last years? It has been dropping. This is how much harvest we managed to gather this year. And this is how many days it stayed in the market. And these are the different things that have affected our harvest of this season. So bringing forward that information when you need, when you want your voice to be heard is of utmost importance. Do your research, go to agriculture. We need an agriculturalist to assist us here. Keep records of what you need, or what you make, and how much of the produce you were able to sell, and how much of the produce you were forced to dispose of, so that you start building a case, because people, the system does not allow us, unfortunately, to just walk in and speak our mind. We need evidence. We need to gather information so that we can present ourselves as knowledgeable and as knowing the best way that you can solve our problems. Promotion of Access to Information Act. It was in year 2000. So local government is legally required to provide the public with information such as bylaws, resolutions, minutes of meetings. So if your councillor says that, yes, I raised this issue, ask them for the minutes of the meeting, the IDP and performance management reports, amongst other records. The municipal manager is responsible for maintaining such records. We have a crisis, unfortunately, of records management. You go to a municipality and there's nothing, Auditor General gets there and there's absolutely nothing to audit because the records management is not in place. So those should form part of your municipal manager's performance management as well. How do you monitor their performance? Were they able to institutionalize a system of keeping records safe? Because we can't be audited on something that is not there. We need a trail Today, I make a requisition for 2,000 Rand. That requisition goes to our administrators. It then goes to our finance. And then finally, it is paid by the finance manager and the executive director. There's a paper trail. And when auditors come in, they have to find all of those pieces of information. If I bought an item on the road when I'm driving to Lindokuhle, I need to have a receipt. That receipt needs to be followed by why was I out on the road in the first place? There needs to be a paper trail that us as communities, we are demanding of the municipality. Ninga chafi, don't lose heart. I know we're probably sitting there and thinking, this will never happen within my municipality. It is very obvious that we've presented the ideal, how it should happen, but we know it's not easy. Sometimes not having the information on time may challenge your ability to participate meaningfully. Now there's time. You might have probably missed this run of the IDP and budget, but there's another one coming. So how do we best prepare ourselves for the next budget? The technical nature of some of the discussions may make participation difficult. So there's environmental impact assessments. We might not understand that, but maybe Sandra can, and we can co-opt her and say, Sandra, I've got this report. I found it at my municipality. Please, can you read through this and tell me what it says? What does it say about the environment? You find that in some spaces that they build houses on muddy soil. I don't know what the technical term is, but where was the environmental impact assessment when they were thinking of building a whole community in that space? So the trade jargon as well. You'll find that your accountants have their own trade jargon. Your people working in administration have their own language that they speak that us as community members, we might not understand, but there is someone in there. There is your counselor to go and ask, what do these things mean? Because I need to go back and account to the community that sent me. And it is very vital that we be the ones that send counselors into council. Council is divided into PR counselors, and there you have your ward counselors. The ward counselors should come from us so that when we are tired of them or they are not doing right by us, we can say, actually, this is not what we appointed you for. Therefore, please move out because now we want somebody else in. Pardon? Is there somebody speaking? Okay. We need to co-opt experts to assist retired engineers, teachers, farmers, unemployed youth, the graduates. We have people sitting with BComs. They can read through spreadsheets and we are not using their skills. Find a way to get through. Develop your own skills. If it means that reading one chapter of the IDP, it's a skill that's being developed either way. Change will happen. We will realize good governance within our lifetime, hopefully. I'm speaking more towards the youth because I remember I was in Matatiela last week and this young woman that we had trained last year in November, she said something had happened inside of her. Yes, some of the people that she had attended the training with, they fell on the wayside, but I was so challenged by her and what she had brought to the table that I said, you know what, possibly in your lifetime, you will see good governance. If you keep at it, if you keep asking the questions that are relevant in the space, if you keep yourself informed, and therefore in a space where your representatives are in town, you get to answer ask the questions that need to be asked in the space. If they say they employed 20 people, where are the people that they say they employed for a water scheme project? So we need to have those discussions. And lastly, are there any quick comments on the whole environment of good governance, public participation, and access to information? Because as a whole, it constitutes good governance. Zelda, I see your hand is up again.
Yes, my hand was up. You mentioned something very important in your presentation, CDWs, which mean community development workers. I'm here in Cape Town. I'm the community development worker for Athlone, right? Now, CDWs are linked to national government. We report to provincial government, and our reports go to the city of Cape Town. Now, people within Cape Town, wherever their CDWs, also need to link up with the CDWs within the area. But remember, we government official, not the ward councillor.
Yes.
Our monthly reports, we need to reflect as to what is happening, and basically most of our work falls within the local government context.
Yes.
And then whatever we do in the provincial or national, we also deal with that. And here CDWs also sit within the ward committees. We don't talk about ward committees, but provincial government demands that we write a report as to what has been discussed and what is not working. And I can tell you most of the time, we ourselves are frustrated because we ask the department, we write the report, why don't we see any changes within our communities? Yes, I'm an environmentalist, and I see that I highlight in environmentalists, I do awareness programs, and I write about that. I'm in their face. They already tells me, Zelda, in your program will always be something about climate change and what you have done on it. So I would, and another point is within the Athlone area, right? A lot of people don't have data to access that information you were talking about. So in the Athlone area, if they got a library card, they can go into the library and they can have access to those documents. If they don't know how to use a computer, there is help within the library to do that. And when some of us retire, we actually told our department, employ a younger person. The problem with the youth is they don't want to shadow with us to see how things are being done on the ground. So the youth must also become, besides reading the programs, the program or a sheet, they also needs to become active within the programs in the community to see how it's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Zelda. I do not see another hand. I will move on.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, Abigail.
Hi, I just want to refer to the chat. Sophia Boyson has noted in the chat, Linda, the IDP representative forums, who form such forums, and what is the criteria to participate?
Pardon?
Sophia Boyson from KSDF has noted a question in the chat. She has asked, what is the criteria to participate?
For us, we just wrote an email to the IDP manager at Amatole district, but they can be sent from the ward committees through to the Municipal IDP representative forum. But the first thing is to establish if there is a representative forum in existence, because we tend to find that it's a space that is missing, which then needs to be filled. but we need to ask for it. I hope that answers it. I've not been able to read some of the stuff in the chat, but thank you, Abigail, for notifying me of it. And if there are any other questions from the chat, if you can bring them to my attention, please.
Lindokuhle.
I hear someone saying my name.
Yes, I'm trying to raise my hand and it keeps going off. I'm in the free state.
You are clapping your hands.
Come again?
I'm saying now I see the clapping hands.
Now I'm here.
I recognize your hand, Ricardo. Yes.
Thank you. Suppose one is developing the CCMP and then beginning to mobilize the church and community in this direction. Are you able to, is one able to access your services, maybe to present this, or are you able to, am I able to have this presentation to share it with the team that I'm hoping to develop, work with, such that we will end up being mobilized to have the eagerness to participate as you so well presented.
Thank you very much for your question. I have shared the material that this presentation is derived from with Sandra. It's a full-on booklet. I could show you. It's holding local government accountable. I've shared the soft copy of it, and you are free to print. It was also funded by the EU. There's also the Heinrich Böll Stiftung within the project. So you are free to mass produce as much as you can. I was part of the project, and I believe that it is quite a handy tool to have, especially when you are wanting to start from the ground up and mobilize your street committees, your ward committees, and your interest groups. Ricardo, I see your hand. You can go ahead.
I would just like you to respond to my comment that I wrote in the comment section, please, about participating in the IDP.
Sorry? Do you want to say it for me, please?
Yeah, can I continue?
Yes, you may.
Okay. I have to strongly disagree with the presenter. The IDP is a farce of epic proportions. The process does not meet any of the criteria as set out in the current presentation by the speaker. I attended a lot of these sessions. Since I can remember, I've never seen the implementation of any of the inputs from us as community. It is also completely it is also, like the speaker said, the liberals and the politically active and or connected members of our community make up the bulk of the attendees at the IDP sessions. The IDP is presented as an uneditable document that is cast in steel. No inputs or amendments are allowed, and the mere fact that there was a public participation element seems to validate and approve these IDPs. So public is left clueless and voiceless as usual. The IDP is an intellectual exercise that is beyond the man in the street, and it serves to further disenfranchise our people from meaningful political participation. The Promotion of Access to Information Act is too legalese, and it becomes the sole domain of legal practitioners that we cannot afford when we want to access those types of acts. And that is about it.
Okay, thank you very much. A farce, maybe not. But when I started, I said we have not exhausted. We have not exhausted it enough. Our public participation is not at a point where we excel in preparing for these sessions. Yes, you might prepare in your little corner. However, in the greater scheme of things, communities are not coming in their numbers. We need numbers. We need to break the system if needs be. But we cannot do that with one Ricardo in his small community and one Lindokuhle in Mdantsane. We need each and everyone to be involved in the process. Come to the space fully informed about what needs to happen when and where. And call it out. Call it out when participation is not going the way that it is recommended or the way that it is stated in the white paper of local government. We need to come with that information into the space where we can then collect enough data to say it is indeed a farce.
If I may.
And then on the access to information, personally, I think it is an easy document to use. However, the 30 days, 60 days, after 60 days, you can take them to court. It's a process. And now I think COVID, there's something that happened during COVID where people are wanting, or organizations have been wanting to align themselves with like-minded people, like-minded organizations. For us, we don't have legal experts within Afesis-corplan, but we can partner with a research institute. We can partner with a legal institute, and that is what I think the climate or the space that has been presented, because people could not be on the ground physically. I think a lot of partnerships have been formed. Some are not written down. There are no MOUs that have been signed, but the ethos on how the civic currently is moving forward is, I believe, we're wanting to hold each other's hands. There are research PARI within WITS. They are partnering with some of the work that we are doing on social audits. The Auditor General is wanting to come on board because they cannot go physically where a sports field was built. So they need us, people on the ground, to give them the information that is not presented in front of them. If the sports field is dilapidated, the numbers on the papers, if they do have the paper trail, they may not speak to what's on the ground. Therefore, Auditor General is wanting these skills to grow within our communities. So in terms of access to information, where you get stuck, find a partner that is more than willing to assist. I think you had another question.
If I may, I'm struggling to raise my hand.
There's a Dr. Mark. Yes, most times it's a 5-year period that IDPs are drafted. They are drafted over a 5-year period, and you may tend to find copy and paste over that 5-year period with changes here and there, possibly with the numbers. Most of the IDP can be quite narrative, but when you come to the numbers, you will see that in this and this year, they spent on this budget, or they didn't spend on this budget, and they might be then carrying it over to the next year. So it's in the numbers where you get to ask the questions. So the cut and paste you may see in the body of the document, but the numbers, they should not lie, and therefore should give direction on what can be asked in terms of when you are wanting to participate in that space. But after 5 years, maybe you can start questioning on, actually, we saw this 5 years ago. What is the status quo of what is in the IDP currently? Sorry, I'm moving on something else.
Linda, there's a question that is coming from Mr. Jan Bos-Standard from Madville Advice Office.
Is it in the chat?
No, he's just struggling to raise his hand.
Oh, okay, okay, yes. You can go ahead, sir.
Good morning to everyone. I'm from Merwa Valley Advice. I would like to ask the question. We did everything that you explained for the last 5 years. We obtained information. We asked the questions in the meetings. They couldn't answer. We caught them out. They were lying in their documents, in their numbers. The Auditor General gave them a disclaimer, the municipality, for the last couple of years. They claim that they does not have money. The Auditor General's outcome of the last audit in the municipality, they stated that the municipality is dysfunctional. During this week, there were actions at the municipality offices by workers and communities because they cannot even pay their workers their monthly salaries every month. And now people are demanding that the municipality must be placed under administration. All of the communities in Beaufort West are struggling, and we are sitting with this drought and this extreme heat, and the municipality is dysfunctional. What advice can you maybe give us going forward? And currently, they were supposed to consult on the IDP during last year, October, November. They want to come now in February, March, while they are supposed to consult on the budget.
Yes.
They are not keeping to their schedules. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. As I said, I think we are confronted with complex problems on our side as well in the civic space. I have been working, as I said, for over 10 years in the space, and it has been a mountain to climb in terms of spiritually, mentally. You don't get the energy you put in, you don't necessarily get it back. And we need to have more of those cases that are documented so that we can make a plausible case towards the system and how it is not assisting us as communities. I feel your pain, I empathize, and I've been there. But we need enough, I don't want to say we need a critical mass, but we do to push things over. Because it has not necessarily been exhausted, but there are people that are wanting to come alongside communities such as yourselves. We assist where we can in terms of capacity building. We can assist in terms of pulling our partners. You can go ahead, if you are able to access information, present it to the Chapter 9 institutions, even though it might not return or come back in the expected time frame. It is worth the try. If there are enough of us making submissions to the public, to the Chapter 9 institutions, then enough information will be generated to say that the system is not working. Yes, it might not be working in many municipalities, but how it is designed to eventually work we are not going to the courts enough. In the Eastern Cape, as many municipalities that are going under, but there are only three or four that have gone to the courts to take their municipalities to court. One of them is Makanda, we have Sakisizwe, but it's not enough to say that the system currently is not working. Maybe civil society, that's what we are putting forward. But the rest of society is maybe not feeling it or maybe not able to articulate it. But we need that articulation to come from the masses. That's my take on it. But there are institutions, the public protector that we can go to, If it's around water, it's a human rights issue. So you have your human rights that you can take those issues to. If you don't have water for 14 days, it's a human rights violation. And so those are the little things that we can start doing by moving up into the Chapter 9 institutions and collecting enough data for the people that are in those spaces to then decide, together with research from us, research from your organization, to then put forward something new, something that will be fresh and designed for the times in which we are living. But currently, we don't have enough data for that, unfortunately. Is it okay to move on?
Yes.
Your role in the planning and oversight cycle. These are the documents that we are meant to be accessing throughout the financial year. You have your IDP, your budget, which goes together with your IDP. You have your service delivery budget implementation plan, which is derived from the budget on a yearly and quarterly basis. It's a whole year, but it is broken down into quarters that by this quarter, this department should have done A, B, C, and D. And we need to be there to monitor. What is it saying in the in-year reporting? Is the Department of Water and Sanitation spending the money, or is it collecting dust somewhere and will one day be returned back to treasury? So we need to keep an eye in the in-year reporting, because what we tend to find is come when they're doing the annual and oversight report, which is at the end. And sometimes money has been spent and sometimes money has not been spent. Either way, delivery of services might not have happened. But when we go towards the end, then it's a whole year wasted that we did not use in holding our municipality accountable. You have your annual financial statements, which are then audited. Your annual report, which then goes to your MPEG, which then goes over with the oversight report that they then compile, together with the skills from outside, with the skills internally, and all the other committees that sit within the municipality. We need to have access to these reports to make meaningful our participation. The IDP, it is a practical, it's a principal strategic planning instrument that guides and informs all planning, development, and decisions in the municipality. It contains the development plans for a 5-year period and has to be reviewed annually. In actual fact, this was something that we were told by an official from Treasury. We have your different departments within your municipality. There was one speaker that said that there is no change or very little change that communities can make towards an IDP or the municipality's budget. But either way, we need to try. And there's also another amount of money that is bestowed upon your ward councillor. In Buffalo City, each ward gets about R1 million. And that one, we can have direct influence on if we attend meetings, if we read the documents that are published within our ward, and if we call for certain meetings. I think there was, I'm not sure where the councillor was from, but they were the first to have a ward development plan, utilizing the non-conditional fund that they receive as a councillor within a ward, and that is not directly linked to the budget and that system. In a budget, obviously we have our heads of departments, we have your water and sanitation, and they have to do planning in the department. You have your town planners. They have to do planning for how the city will expand. So that those funds are earmarked for certain projects. And within a budget as well, you have two budgets in a way, sorry. You have your capital expenditure and you have your operational expenditure. Your capital is all your waterworks. If you need a new plumbing system, if you need your infrastructure grant, it goes into your capital expenditure. So you need to know, where can you have influence? What is there? And that will probably not shift in the next 5 years, but how much of the municipality's finances do we as communities have some leeway in persuading to go our way or another ward's way, etc., etc. And some other thing that we must also keep in mind is that a road that starts at Ward 1 and ends at Ward 12. Yes, it was not in my ward that road was implemented in specifically. So I cannot count that as a specific project that went to my community. However, it benefits me to have that road running through my ward. So those are the complex problems that municipalities have to deal with on a yearly, daily basis. Where do we start with the limited funds that we have? Those are the kind of questions that we can then start asking. The municipal budget and the IDP process. Municipal budget is a financial plan for the coming financial year that sets out the expenditure, that sets out the income, stipulates capital expected to finance expenditure. So you have different streams of where money comes from: treasury, rates and taxes, your traffic fines. That's money coming in to the municipality. They might have investments and savings, which some of that money is not locked to specific projects. So you can persuade them and say, of these savings or of this money that you have collected from all the bonds that you have in our community, this is our struggle. We need greenhouses. We have lost revenue on a steady decline over the last couple of years, and we need your assistance, municipality. So those are the kinds of information that we can start finding. How much of an investment bucket does the municipality have? And how much of that, or even a fraction of that, can we access as a community in need? From the disaster, how much of that can be used for issues that we are dealing with that might not be deemed a municipal-wide disaster, but an interest group disaster? If you are small-scale farmers, floods and drought, floods and extreme drought, that could be a problem. And maybe you need some space to regulate how the weather affects your plants. So how do you present yourself in these spaces where you quite frankly need to talk about money? And people are edgy whenever people talk about money, be it in your household, be it in your municipality, be it at church. Money is a touchy subject, and we need to prepare ourselves when it comes to speaking about money. And as I mentioned, the different streams of income that the municipality expects. So the municipality needs to coordinate the process of IDP review and annual budget, prepare a time schedule for preparation, tabling, and approval of the budget. This comes out in August. Keep an eye out for this. Yes, they said that they would come in November, December. They will have an explanation for that. They will send it. They will say it was elections. That's probably the first thing that they will say. We were preparing for elections, and then it was induction. And it's only now that we are able to come to you. There's always an excuse and could possibly be valid or can be counted as valid. But in August, they are meant to be publishing the plan on how the IDP and budgeting process will go. The publication of the annual budget. The annual budget must be made public. Invite local community to submit representation on the budget. Submit budget to national and provincial treasury. Right now, it is that time where communities can make submissions either verbally or you write and make your submission. This period before they pass the budget at IDP in July. So if you are not prepared for this period, prepare yourself for the next coming IDP process cycle. Consultation on the budget. When the budget is tabled, council must consider any views of the local community, national and provincial treasuries, other municipalities and organs of state that made submissions on the budget. We have what we call intergovernmental relations. We have district implementation plan, district development plans. So if Amatole, because okay, we are a metro as Buffalo City, so we don't form much of Amatole, but we are in the same jurisdiction. So if the district development plan is to do ABC, they might have input as well on how our budget is spent as a smaller municipality. The mayor must, in consultation, respond to the submissions. That is when there's an open day, people come into council, people are able to voice, but then we know that they come with a presentation that is already there, of numbers probably that they've been regurgitating yearly for the last 5 years. And in that space, some community members are given the opportunity to voice their concerns on certain issues that speak to where they live or their particular interest groups. So farmers, business people, sports, etc., etc. That is sometimes the platform where you may get empathy because there are other people present in the space and it's not just your own ward. There are people from the media, from other sectors and from other departments. So if the Department of Agriculture is present, the office that is there within your town should be present in the IDP open forum, in that forum. They should be there. So if you are there to speak of the concerns of the small scale farmers, somebody in that room should answer your call. The approval of budgets. The budgets must be approved before the start of the budget year. Also, it must be approved by the council together with resolutions on reviewed IDP, setting tariffs and taxes. Yeah, that's not a comfortable one. Approving measurable performance objectives. That is when your HODs, they sign their key performance indicators and how they will operate and spend the money. We have found that in the current political space, we tend to find hung councils where the budget is not approved. I know that had happened in Gqeberha, where they had a hung council, but the municipality still it proceeded to spend the money, which it goes against the Auditor General's or the audit outcomes. So those are also things that we need to keep an eye on. How we vote in a space. Do you want a mix of political parties? Do we want 50% or 50%? Because then that presents, it has the potential to present hung councils. And when there are hung councils, you cannot spend the budget, you cannot deliver services. So we need to be cognizant of each and every action that we as community members take when it comes to voting, when it comes to participation, when it comes to reading and being informed about what the municipality is doing with our money. And now to end, I thought I would let Sandra come in, but I would like us to share experiences and opinions on service delivery, accountability, information, and IDPs. What is your community group or as an individual done in terms of those listed above? And what have you done to engage government in the past? And was this a good or bad experience? And lastly, if you can explain your answer. I think some people have already shared with regards to this slide. And so Sarah, in looking at the time, I think I should hand over to you, and then we can come back to these questions if we have the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lindo. We have learned a lot. I have really learned a lot of with this presentation. I'm not sure, Lindo, there's just a few questions that I think you should respond to that were in the chat box. The first one says, does municipalities release any report that reflects the inputs that were adopted from the public during the public participation process? Is there any feedback from the municipalities on the comments raised so that people know whether they are?
At the back of your IDP report, I've seen this in BCM, they will have a list. I think there's a list of people that made contributions towards the IDP. Unfortunately, I have not seen individuals. I have seen Afesis-corplan on the list, but there's no direct link that says Afesis made a contribution around urban settlements, and this is where it is reflected. Unfortunately, it is not there. Maybe that is something that we can start calling for.
Okay, thank you on that. Just looking at the time, I'm sure we'll continue with our discussion. At this point in time, I would like to call upon Seth, who is going to wrap up this discussion, taking it to our project. So what does this mean in relation to our project? Seth, over to you.
Hi, Sandra. Thank you so very much. You know, even though I did not follow most of the presentation, the little bit I got was really very informative, I must say. And I think very important information was shared this morning that I want to believe would be very helpful, and has given us food for thought in terms of how we are to engage our communities and engage our key stakeholders, you know, in really addressing issues of access to justice in the form of service delivery, climate change, and other social challenges, issues that we are faced with. And I think it's important to also note that community-based organizations play a very important role in the areas as mentioned by the presenter, you know, for the past 45 minutes, an hour. And why I say that is because we, as CBOs, we're the only organizations that are at the cold face of what is happening in our communities. We are the ones that have the pulse of the community, you know, at our fingers. Government doesn't have that opportunity or that position that we hold as community-based organizations. And I think even the name just implies, you know, that we in the community, and that's why we called community-based organizations. Instead, we refer to these organizations as local development agencies, because we see them as agents of change. And for me, just listening to the presentation, is that critical to this is engagement with structures at local government, and more specifically at municipal management level, because we're the ones that can mobilize our communities to hold our councillors, our municipal managers, our MPCs, and so forth accountable, on the promises. We've just come out of the local government elections. A lot of promises were made to our people, our communities. And I think, part of the responsibility really rests on us to go back to those people and hold them accountable on the promises that they made to us and to members of our community. And as rightly pointed out in the presentation, how best we can do that, except if we really know what's involved in the plans and how the plans have been developed and designed. And I was encouraged to hear some of the participants here says, well, we've been chasing our government officials, we've been at the doors of our municipalities, we've been asking questions, how did you come to this conclusion? And somebody said, I think it was Freddie or something, says, we actually caught them out, that they were lying, in their plans, to government, etc., etc. And I think that's what is required of us, to be informed and to take an active interest in what's happening in our communities, and as well as really mobilizing our communities around issues of interest affecting our day-to-day lives, such as lack of access to basic services, water, electricity, lights. And of recent importance is the effect of climate change in our communities. I mean, I'm sure, like me, you've been watching the news and reading newspapers. It's amazing how the climate has changed in our country. We get in rains where we never expected rains, and where we were expecting rains, it's not just raining, it's flooding. It's flooding, offices have been damaged, businesses, homes, etc. And which is something in most of these communities that they're not used to. And therefore, it becomes important that as climate change activists, that we take up these issues, with our local structures, our councillors, the people that knock on our door, give us T-shirts, and food, call us to rallies, to call them to meetings, to community meetings, to mobilize communities. But we can only do that, if we really are informed. And I must say, Sandra and the team, that I'm encouraged to hear that, most of the people that are here are really informed about what's happening in their communities. But at the same time, I also want to believe that the information that was shared this afternoon or this morning has added to their arsenal of information, that when they leave this place, they're going to go back, to their communities and really mobilize them. Because in essence, guys, this is about turning our average community members to become active citizens, and not only just climate change activists, but just social justice activists in their communities, to be a voice to the voiceless in our communities. It's 27 years or 28 years after, since 1994, we can't continue to live like we're living and not really do something about it. So I'm really hoping and trusting that, you guys, like Sandra said, that we've learned quite a lot. You've not only learned quite a lot, but you've picked up one or two things that will go back, reflect on those things, and not only reflect on those things, but apply them in your content, in your context, in addressing the challenges, especially around climate change and access to basic services in your communities. And really, because that's what this this project is designed for. This project is really designed to equip you to be able to be effective agents of change in your communities. And even though the emphasis, and the slant is towards climate change, but really it's broader than just climate change. It's about taking issue with matters that are of concern within our community, food security, gender-based violence, femicides, crime in our communities, and so forth. So I'm hoping, guys, that as we leave this session, we motivated, we equipped, and I'm happy that the presentation will be available so that you can go back and go through the slides again, or go through this recording again, so as to reinforce and remind ourselves of what we've said. So thank you so much for taking the time to spend these 2 hours with the team, and thanks to Sandra, to Claire, and to Misa for having organized this very powerful, and thank you to our presenter for coming through, and what a powerful presentation. Much appreciated. Back to you, Sandra. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Seth. Thank you so much. To the participants, I just wanted to say that for our voices to be heard, we really need to speak out. So this is also another chance for us to speak out. Let's contribute to the development of our IDPs and reviews of our IDPs. So now it's up to you guys. Let's go and think about this, how we would want to approach this. As your partners, we are there to support you, to assist you. Any type of assistance that you think we should be giving you, please let us know. In the interim, we do have some resources that we shared, or we will be sharing with you. We have already shared videos on what IDPs, and we will be sharing text for those who don't want to look at the videos. Those who want to read will share text on what are IDPs. There has been a toolkit that has been circulated to you, or which will also be circulated on how to make your municipality accountable. Then we will also share a guide to check whether your municipal has achieved a credible IDP, which is responding to climate change. So it's a guide on what questions or what issues you should be looking at. So we will also share that with you. And as usual, there will be a sort of an activity that we would want you to engage on. Please, in your areas where you are, look at opportunities where you would want to engage. It's either with the legislator, where you would want to lobby or participate in hearing, and let us know so that we can assist you to get there. It was our desire that this year, all the participants, or most of the participants, would have to attend parliamentary meetings, and also to tour the parliament itself and actually know what happens there, how your voices could be heard. The project intention, I will emphasize again, is that rural voices are included in the development or review of any policy that affects them, and especially on climate change issues. We are aware that most of us are the ones who are being victims on the impacts of climate change, and we want to ensure that as communities in the rural areas, those issues that we are faced with are addressed. Thank you once again. Thank you very much for coming to attend, and to our host today, Lindo. I would like to thank you so much, and I believe this is not the end. We can always call Lindo. We will always be in touch with